Welcome to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. It's been nearly a year since the West African terrorist group Boko Haram kidnapped several hundred schoolgirls. And since then, terrorists have ramped up their attacks in the region, which has resulted in widespread instability. Can anything be done to stop them? Joining us to discuss are Caitlin Pauling from the Foreign Policy Initiative and Jennifer Cook with the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Welcome, ladies. Let me turn to you first, Caitlin. What can be done to stop Boko Haram?
Well, I think the multinational task force that's been formed between regional actors, Chad, Cameroon, Niger, Benin, and also Nigeria, has been having a good amount of progress so far. They've recently retaken 3 towns from Boko Haram's stronghold. Boko Haram earlier this year controlled as much as 17% of Nigeria's territory. So I think that multinational task force is making some good gains. But with that, there is still a lot to be done. Nigeria's forces face massive problems of corruption and low morale and low training and equipment amounts. So it's a long way to go.
Jennifer, let me turn to you. What is the United States' involvement? I know we had the Twitter hashtag campaign, but are we doing anything substantive with this coalition?
Well, the U.S. has been working, giving advice and training to the Nigerian military. There were some tensions in the relationship this past year when the U.S. refused to allow Nigeria to purchase Cobra attack helicopters from Israel, citing human rights concerns and the lack of training and so forth. Nigeria then abruptly stopped a training exercise. So the U.S. has had a bit of trouble engaging with the Nigerian military. I think now with this multinational force, it's working with the Cameroonians, and it's offered again to work with the Nigerians on building their capacities.
You know, Caitlin, you mentioned that there was an issue with corruption and competence in the Nigerian government. They're about to have elections. How is that going to change things?
Well, the opponent of Goodluck Jonathan, Buhari, has come in offering up a lot of ideas in terms of reform and to root out corruption. When he did rule as a military ruler, when he took over the government through a coup in 1983, he was known for tackling corruption. So I think there could be a potential change after these elections, but if Goodluck Jonathan remains the president, I think there's a lot of things he needs to do to address that corruption. The military has often siphoned off funding for higher-ups and also equipment they've purchased before, such as big-ticket items. Like 2006, they purchased Israeli drones. Those were grounded because the funds for their upkeep and for training were siphoned off. And as a result, we had to pitch in ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, to help find those girls last year.
Jennifer, you know, we've seen this time and time again where the United States is trying to partner with a government that's corrupt, incompetent, has a lot of shortcomings, and this seems to be where radical Islam is making its inroads. Do you see Boko Haram, in fact, gaining as a ground in this, as particularly given the Nigerian government, and particularly if there's an election which leads to a period of even political instability? What do you think, Jennifer?
Well, I actually think this is a good momentum right now, and they really are being pushed off of the territory. The international community in the region has gotten engaged, and that's important because Boko Haram has had rear bases in the neighboring countries. Nigeria does seem to be getting its act together with better equipment. I think citizens are rallying behind the military, which is a very good sign. You know, this isn't the end of the road, though. I mean, Boko Haram has lashed back in suicide attacks. There's going to be a long road to kind of eradicating them rather than just pushing them back. And that means counterintelligence and counter-radicalizations programs. It means developing the economy of that region so young men aren't so vulnerable. It means working with communities to get better intel on what's happening. And finding the sources of funding for Boko Haram. So I think there is a lot of good momentum right now, but there's a lot of follow-through that happens. And as you say, if the elections are contested, that means everyone's distracted from this problem, and it leaves a void up there.
Thank you both very much, Caitlin and Jennifer. And for the latest on Boko Haram or other issues involving radical Islam, stick with FoxNews.com. And thanks for watching DEFCON 3.